You don't have it when it comes to big games. You look at 2018 semi-final, for example, against Limerick. Like Cork were 8 points up with 7 minutes to go, and not to finish it out. And Limerick didn't even score a goal in the last few minutes, and we still, let it slip. And it was at that moment like you felt, is this Cork team actually going to win in All Ireland?
Okay, so welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I'm joined here by Matthew Hurley from GAA Statsman, here to talk all things Cork ahead of the upcoming Intercounty Championship in both football and hurling. So, I suppose first of all, how are you keeping?
Aaron Grand, Aaron, great that the GAA is back, to be honest. Just hearing the news that underage is cancelled though, but hopefully the senior will be a good championship. We need it after the year we had.
Yeah, I think it was confirmed that the minors and the under-20s are cancelled, which I don't know. I don't really understand that, in all honesty, because like I don't understand how you can cancel the minors and the under-20s and let the seniors still go. Like I feel like it should be one or the other. Like I feel like they probably should just keep it all. It doesn't really add up. But I suppose, like, what did you make of, obviously, with the level 5 lockdown coming in and the GAA continuing? Obviously there was a lot of kind of mixed talk about it. Like, personally, I think it's great. I think it's brilliant that the championships are going ahead. But like, what did you make of it yourself?
I thought it was good that the intercounty's back. Like, it'll be entertaining championship without a doubt. What I was kind of upset about was the club championships here in Cork and in Donegal being cancelled. The finals were going to go ahead as scheduled, but the GS just pulled the plug. I thought it was pretty strange. I thought Castlehaven and Nemo would have been a good game, but let's be honest, I think the GA pulled the plug for the money, really, because of the Sky deal, RT, and all that. But I think the Intercounty Championship will be more competitive and more. It'd be definitely more quality to the club championship anyway. But I find that a bit strange cancelling the club championship. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think, like, there's been more than enough evidence there, like, that they should have kept it going. Like, obviously, like, yeah, there was obviously, one or two incidents along the way, and fair enough. But I feel like, I feel like they still should have went ahead with it, in my opinion. But I suppose, like, what was your opinions on Cork, obviously, against Louth at the weekend? I watched the game myself, and I thought they played very well. Like, definitely one of the most attacking teams in the country at the moment. So, like, what did you make of it yourself?
I thought we were very tacky. All right, 5-19 is some score to put up, even against a team like Louth. 16 points we conceded, though. That was a bit concerning going into Kerry. But yeah, a lot of forwards seem to be in form. You look at the likes of Paul Kerrigan, 2 goals, still going strong at the age of 33, which is amazing. Killian O'Hanlon with 4 points from centre forward. He's not usually used to playing there. So I thought it was good that he played a different position, really. Ian Maguire getting a goal as well. Mark Collins getting 1-5 was outstanding off the bench. And the best thing is we have more to come in as well. Carl O'Mahony, Brian Hurley, Luke Conley, um, and Rory Deed was also excellent as well, hoovering up balls around the middle. So it was good in overall sense. As I said, it would be a bit concerning with the defence though, especially against a team like Louth, who are Division 4, let's be honest.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, that was the kind of only, I suppose it was kind of a little bit of indiscipline in some ways, kind of giving away the frees and whatnot. But like, I definitely think it's something they'll work on. Like, even on my own channel when I was talking about it, I was kind of saying, like, I feel like you set up for what you play, and I feel like they probably would have known against Louth that there would have been some defensive frailties, but like, still, yeah, going forward, definitely, very, very attacking. Like, what did you make of, obviously, the Longford game was cancelled, obviously? Like, was that a bit disappointing, like, as a Cork fan, obviously, because it would have been nice, I suppose, to kind of have that game before the Kerry game, just to kind of see where you're at, I suppose, given that Kerry will play 2 games.
Yeah, I found it very disappointing anyway. It would have been a chance to test new players, maybe bring in a few under 20s from last year and get them settled into the team. Like I think Blake Murphy is coming this year. It would have been good if he got a game against Longford, didn't go out against Loud last weekend. Although I do get the decision from Longford, uh, they don't want to risk anything, especially they have their own championship coming up, championship game against Loud. It is disappointing, yeah, and especially Kerry have two competitive games against Donegal this weekend, which will be some battle, and we probably needed that. Um, I just think Kerry will be going in more prepared, which is kind of a worry, and they'll be more match sharp. Um, the plus side, though, I think will we've more energy on our side. We have a 2 week break now, so Rhoda McCarthy can put his plans in place for training, and Keane O'Neill as well could add a bit of defensive solidity as well into the team. We have that time as well. But yeah, it was disappointing enough. Yeah.
Hmm. And I suppose were you relieved that the league actually resumed? Because I suppose a lot of people were kind of saying that, it should have been cancelled. And then some people were saying like null and void and whatnot. And obviously Cork were one of the teams that would have been mostly affected by it. So I suppose like were you kind of relieved when that resumed and actually that, at least we did get the league games finished?
Absolutely, yeah. I said this on my Instagram before. I don't think there's a point in finishing something when it's like 70% done. There's no point in just starting something new once you have something else to finish. That was disappointing from a car point of view because we done all we can to get up to Division Two again. We won 5 games out of 5. We did all we can, and it just would have been unfair if we just didn't finish the league campaign. I'm just glad we got it finished, and to get those games. Well, it would have been 2 games, but the game against Louth under our belt before we go into the Kerry game. I thought it was a good idea by the GAA, and it was badly needed for not just Cork but other teams around the country.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they definitely made the right decision in bringing it back. Obviously, like with the Cork Senior Football Championship that happened during the summer, like I suppose, obviously, like what were your kind of thoughts on that championship? Like obviously, Nemo Rangers and Castlehaven getting to the final. Like what kind of players do you think stood out in that championship? And I suppose like what did you make of how it all played out?
Without doubt, I think the best 2 teams made the final. Um, in terms of stand-up players, I thought a player who's now a hurler for Cork, Damien Cahalan, really stood out for Castlehaven. He was a leader around that back line. Brian Hurley was excellent, scored a brilliant point against St. Finbarrs in the semi-final. For Nebo, I thought Luke Conley, as always for Nebo, was scoring a lot of goals. Kevin O'Donovan, I thought was very good. Mark Cronin improved as a player, built up a bit of strength during the Cork County Championship. I thought there was a few surprise teams as well, the likes of Valley Rovers making a quarter final. Fiacre Lynch did well there, former Cork footballer. Newstown surprised me a small bit with another hurler, Luke B, doing very well, and Garrod O'Donovan, who was excellent. Um, it was nice to see a few new teams come to the fray as well, and it was nice to see, a club final. I don't think it would have been looking good on the county if the likes of Duhallow made it. Their divisional side. It wouldn't really look good in the county. So I'm glad Nemo and Castlehaven made it, and hopefully that match goes ahead March because it will be a cracker.
Mm. Yeah, well, hopefully it does, definitely. And I don't know how the whole situation's going to play out, but even if they did have an All-Ireland Club Championship to some extent or brought the provincial club championships in, like it'd be interesting to see how, if it was Nemo Rangers or Castlehaven, it would have been interesting to see like how they would have gone on in that as well. I suppose kind of moving on to the championship then, I suppose like what are your kind of feelings going into that match versus Kerry, because obviously Kerry overwhelming favourites, but I definitely think Cork will give them a fairly close game. Like, I don't think there'll be much between us.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying this will be a walkover for Kerry. But having looked at last year, Cork were within a score of Kerry last year in the Munster final. People seem to forget that. And even against your own county, Dublin, we were in that game up until the last 8 minutes when Dublin just hit 3 goals in quick succession. So we are competitive. I don't think we were quite ready for the big teams quite yet. I just think we're a bit too inexperienced. Maybe next year we could build for that. Um, I think if we get within 1 or 2 points of Kerry, it'd be a success. Obviously, a win would be amazing. Um, yeah, I just think Kerry have improved on their frailties from last year, defensively being the main issue, and they've rectified that, especially seeing the Monaghan game last week. They kind of adopted a defensive system. Um, I think that will work in Kerry's favour on 8th of November. But sure, we'll see. I hope there'll be a shock. But then again, I wouldn't be disappointed if we get within 1 to 3 points of them.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing Kerry kind of playing a bit defensive, all right, because I think that's kind of been one of their main like weaknesses probably from last year in the past couple of years, is that although they do have some of the best forwards in the country, that perhaps defensively they're just a little bit weak. Would you put that down maybe as like the kind of biggest weakness in that Kerry side? Do you think that maybe, like if they, like, because obviously they can't be too defensive against you because they will need to make use of their forwards. So do you think that could be maybe one weakness that you actually could exploit in that team?
Definitely, yeah. We exploited it last year when we tested our full back line. You look at Brian Hurley's goal last year, we kicked the ball right into the box and Hurley got the touch. The goalkeeper, Shane Ryan, seems to, flap at things when the ball comes into the area. You see it against Mayo last year, the league final. So that can be a weakness, yeah. And even if you run a Kerry, they seem vulnerable. They'll either concede a penalty or they'll back off or and I think we do have runners in the team, especially for midfield. Ian Maguire, Rory Dean, Killian O'Hanlon could definitely trouble that Kerry defence. And we have better forwards than last year, I would think. Cathal O'Mahony and Damien Gore showed in the league. They're very accurate with their shot taking in general. We also have Luke Conley and Mark Collins, Brian Hurley, who is excellent at getting goals for us. And even off the bench, usually for the underdog, the bench will be a worry. But we've Michael Hurley. He scored 5 points off the bench against Offaly this year, for example. And he could be a bit of a live wire off the bench, which would be very good for the last 10 minutes of the game. So I definitely think we can trouble Kerry by running at them, by kicking the ball long, by going direct, and ultimately for not having any fear.
Yeah, no, they definitely do have a lot of options. Like, that is definitely one thing that I look at Cork and think, like, 4 or 5 years down the line, they definitely, like, with all the options that they have, they could easily be, competing at a high level. Absolutely no doubt about it. Like, I suppose if you were to get past Kerry, then like you'd have to consider yourselves All Ireland contenders then, because like I'd say you'd win Munster probably comfortably enough. I mean, Clare or Tip or whoever it is might be able to pose a bit of a challenge, but I suppose from there, would you reckon you kind of would you fancy your chances like in an All Ireland after
that? Just to get back to Munster, I don't think it'll be as easy as many people think. I just think Clare have beaten us, for example, the last 3 years on the bounce, which is impressive from them. Tipperary have Michael Quinlivan back. They also have Conor Sweeney, who are huge for them. They have David Power, the minor manager, that won the All Ireland for them. But yeah, I think we can beat them. We should be able to beat them, especially after we beaten Kerry. Looking forward to the semi-final coming out of Connacht. You don't know about Connacht now. I recently tipped Galway for the All Ireland, but after watching last Sunday, I'm not so sure though. I'm not so sure they'll even win Connacht. You look at Mayo coming through with exuberant young players in their team. But I do agree with you, they'd probably be weaker than Kerry, and we could definitely put it up to them. Then on the other side, Dublin are just too strong, in my opinion. I think Cork have a good record against Ulster sides anyway. So if an Ulster side can beat Dublin, I'm not saying they will now, but if they can, I think Cork would have an excellent chance of winning the All Ireland. But obviously, it's premature talk. Yeah.
And I suppose like what kind of players do you think in that Cork team could probably make the difference? Like if you were to go all the way, let's say.
I would definitely think our forwards would be the main aim for our team. Cathal O'Mahony, Damien Gore, Blake Murphy, who's coming from the under-20s, Mark Collins, Brian Hurley, Luke Conley. You look at our midfield, Rory Dean, Ian Maguire, Killian O'Hanlon. We've lost a few key players though. Kieran Sheehan is out for the year now. We were excited him coming back from Australia. He's now out with a knee injury, I believe, for the rest of the year. Liam O'Donovan, who was one of the most impressive wing backs of the country last year, he's out with an ACL, which is a huge loss for us. We still have exuberant half backs, so Matty Taylor still there. Sean Meehan, who was excellent for the under-20s. Sean Powter, who will run his socks off for the team. And he was excellent, especially during before the lockdown. He can play in any type of position. Paul Ring, I think, is one of the best cornerbacks in the country at the moment. He played very well in the under-20 final last year. Yeah, I think if we can get all them players to top form, we definitely have a chance of causing a surprise or two.
And I suppose obviously like with a lot of the under-20 and minor success that Cork have had in the past few years, and like is there kind of an expectation maybe in the coming years that actually Cork could potentially win an All-Ireland, or even, you know, I don't know, win 2 back-to-back or compete for All-Irelands even?
Oh, there definitely is, yeah. The under-20 team last year were just one of the most exciting teams in the country, in my opinion, last year. Watching us play without fear really against Kerry, it was just it was brilliant to watch, I have to say. Beating that Kerry team, and not just beating them, we beat them by 11 points, which was amazing. We then go into the semi-final against Tyrone. We were bad for most of the game really, but we dug it out, and we got the win in the end. And then the final against Dublin, I believe we were 7 points down in the first 10 minutes. And the players just showed great resolve to come back into that game and win it so comprehensively in the end. The minor, I thought, was outstanding, given that Kerry won it the last 5 years prior to that. We got hammered by Kerry and Parky Green. I think it was well over 10 points. But we came back into it. We gained confidence. We changed a few things. We had a few tweaks in the team. And they went on and improved game on game against Monaghan. We hammered out of the quarterfinals. We hammered Mayo in the semi-finals, which I didn't see coming at all. And then against Galway, geez, the players show great resolve, great skill as well. Conor Corbett's goal in the last few minutes, you would never see that in a minor final. It's that dramatic. Yeah, we've definitely good players coming through, and hopefully we can challenge in the next 2 to 3 years.
And do you think even like, because even when I look at like that, the young teams with Cork that are coming through and the minors and even at the under-20s, like it does kind of remind me some like a little bit to Dublin a little bit in that kind of early 2010s kind of era, where, you know, they won a minor title in 2012, won a couple of under-20 titles. So do you think even that maybe Cork could even replicate Dublin in some sense and actually, you know, become the top dog in Gaelic football?
I think there's definitely potential, without a doubt. The one thing Dublin has that Cork didn't have, Dublin had a huge concentration in football. They didn't really put hurling to one side. With Cork, I think hurling's definitely the most preferred sport in the county. definitely the most supported. That might be a problem. You see the likes of Damien Cahalane and Aidan Walsh. They were very good youngsters coming through in the early 2010s even, and they went off playing hurling. I fear that could happen with our young players.
Mm.
But what I've seen in recent years, the under 20 teams for both hurling and football, they seemed kind of different. There were different players, different managers, which was very good. And both teams were very competitive. Um, I'm just hoping the footballers can stick at it, just be patient, and the glory days will come eventually. Um, and I hope they won't switch to hurling and let the hurling under 20s do their thing.
Yeah, I suppose obviously kind of having hurling there definitely a big competition, and I suppose with Dublin, like Dublin hurlers like are very good. Like, don't get me wrong, and there is a lot of emphasis placed on hurling, but definitely like football's always going to be number one, especially when you look at like players like Conor O'Callaghan, probably one of the best hurlers in the country, but obviously plays football. And then Dermot Connolly and Cormac Costello are fairly decent hurlers as well. But I suppose, keeping on that topic of hurling, like, would you kind of be happy enough with that draw for the Cork hurlers? Obviously, avoiding Tip and Limerick, and look, listen, Waterford are a good team, in the All-Ireland final in 2017, but certainly that was probably the draw you were looking for.
I'd say it was the draw that any Cork fan was looking for. Especially the news today that Pádraig Mahony will be out for the rest of the championship, which is huge for Cork, and his brother Philip retiring as well. I think Waterford are a small bit inexperienced. I know, don't get me wrong, Waterford have good young players coming through, but I think Cork might ages in the inexperience definitely. We definitely have some very good forwards, and we should be doing a lot better. Usually, Pat Horgan carries us in games, but we have the likes of Seamus Hartney, Conor Lehan, coming through this year, Simon Kennefick and Adam Connolly. So we definitely have good players all over the park, and we should be doing better. And it was a draw any Cork fan would have wanted. It was probably the best we could have got, because I personally think we could have lost to Limerick, Tipperary, because of the players they have, and even Clare, I thought were one of the best teams in the league before lockdown. So we got a good draw in that sense, and we have a good chance of making the Munster final now.
Mm. Yeah, definitely a great chance for Cork. And I suppose, like, if they obviously Patrick Horgan is, one of the best hurlers in the country, like, and if you can find maybe one or two players maybe that are, not on his level, but even close to his level, then definitely Cork have got a real opportunity, I think. Like, how do you reckon they will get on in the championship altogether? Like, do you think, you can make, do you think you can win Munster, or, even go all the way in the All-Ireland?
I suppose the advantage for us in regards to the Munster Championship is we have the easy side to the draw, so we can prepare more for that Munster final. Meanwhile, just say Limerick, for example, they have to go through two tough games against Clare and Tipperary. That might work in Cork's favour. Even if we don't win Munster, though, we're in the quarter final. We're one game away from the semi final, and anything can happen, really. And I think Munster is probably stronger than Leinster. So any Leinster team possibly going through, say, a Dublin, even a Galway, I think, are an ageing team. So I think Cork would have the advantage there. No, but the obvious teams for Cork to look to is probably Tipperary, Limerick, Wexford, and Kilkenny, who'll be my top four anyway. They probably are more experienced than Cork. You look at the last few years, Tipperary winning the All-Ireland. I don't think they'd be as hungry this year. I think Kilkenny will win the whole thing, but Limerick looked very good before lockdown. The hurling championships could be very interesting, and I would be surprised if there's a few shocks.
Yeah, no, I think like anyone can kind of beat anyone. Like, there's probably, you're looking at the 4 or 5 counties there in Munster, and then, Galway, Wexford, Kilkenny. I think between all three of them and the counties from Munster, like anyone could really win it. Like I fancy Kilkenny to probably win it as well. To be honest, I think they'll just have a few more players coming through, like especially from the club championship as well. Like obviously it's been 15 years since Cork like won an All Ireland, like in hurling, like at senior level. And obviously, like I was looking through it there, and I think that's like one of the longest gaps that they've ever had without winning an All Ireland in hurling. So like, what do you kind of put that down to? Do you think it's the competition has increased maybe with the likes of Limerick and Galway, etc., or do you think maybe it's something that that Cork haven't done?
It's definitely a bit of both. I think the competition has definitely improved in hurling. At the start of the decade, when I started watching hurling, there was really only three teams in it. Pick of three teams: Tipperary, Kilkenny, Cork, and there's your All Ireland champions. Now you have potentially 8 or 9 teams that could win the All Ireland if they play up to their level. Another thing which impacted Cork, I thought, was the player strikes in 2008 was a big factor. Um, the players really hounded Gerald McCarthy out, which didn't look good for the county. We weren't really competitive until Jimmy Barry Murphy came in, and we got to an All Ireland final. Possibly should have won it if the ref blew the whistle at the third minute of added time, which he probably should have. But I'm not going to go into complaining now. But ultimately, Cork just they don't have it when it comes to big games. You look at the 2018 semi-final, for example, against Limerick. Like, Cork were 8 points up with 7 minutes to go, and not to finish it out. And Limerick didn't even score a goal in the last few minutes, and we still, let it slip. And it was at that moment, like, you felt, is this Cork team actually going to win in All Ireland? And then the next year, obviously, confidence was gone. But yeah, we've done well in Munster in the past few years, but once we get to Croke Park, we're seen as teams that kind of choke, and I think that's definitely one of the main problems.
Hmm. Yeah, like it, because it is kind of mad, like, as Cork, like they've been fairly competitive, like in Munster, winning it there a couple of times, and like I remember watching that game versus Limerick, all right, and you couldn't quite believe it when Limerick came back to win the way they did. And even last year against Kilkenny, I felt like Cork had so many opportunities in that game to finish Kilkenny off in that first half, and they just missed a lot of opportunities. Like I suppose, like when you look at the under-20s with Cork, obviously you reached 2 All Ireland finals there in the past 2 years. So like, does that kind of give you a bit of confidence that, if Patrick Horgan continues for, the next kind of while, and you have a couple of under-20 players coming through, that actually, you could potentially get over the line and kind of end that way for an All Ireland?
I hope we can. The fact we lost to Tipperary 2 years in a row just signifies we're a bit behind in Munster, really. And even last year, we didn't lose to Tipperary just once; we lost twice, which doesn't usually happen in the championship. So in that sense, we'd have to kind of watch ourselves, not get too complacent with the success of the under-20s. We haven't won anything yet. So, yeah, but definitely the under-20s can improve the team. You look at the main under-20, I think, coming through is probably in the defence. Robert Downey, I think, has been excellent the past few years. And he's kind of the full back we've been searching for really for years. We have a few young players like Sean O'Leary Hayes coming through, Brian Turnbull. We've Joe Collins, who I think can step up and replace Anthony Nash. So we definitely have the talent. That's never been a question in Cork. The question is, do we have the mentality to win the All Ireland?
Yeah, and I suppose, yeah, Tipperary kind of did win those 2 finals like fairly comfortable, but Yeah, you never know. Like definitely if, a few under 20 players come through and get into that senior team with a lot of the other players that you have as well, there's definitely more than a chance that Cork can go all the way and potentially win an All-Ireland. I suppose obviously for yourself, like setting up the GAA Statsman account, like where did that kind of come from, and like what was your idea behind that?
I originally started doing stats 2017. I put them up on my personal account on Twitter. Um, I then thought in 2019 I joined Instagram recently, and I thought I'd create this account and see where it goes. Really, I didn't expect it to nearly reach 6,000 followers, which is beyond my wildest dreams. Really, um, other accounts I've created are on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. If you want to have a look, but I'm doing much more than stats now. A few GA clips, a few GA news stories, and my own personal opinions as well. I'm starting to do a few lives as well, which is going down very well. Um, yeah, at the start, I would have dreamt of such a popular account, but here we are.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's very good. Like I've definitely I've used a few of the stats on my videos before as well, and they're definitely fairly handy, all right. So I definitely recommend anyone like watching to go and give you a follow. I'll leave all the links down below. I suppose lastly then, just to kind of finish up, like if you were to give like an All-Ireland prediction for both football and hurling, who would you go for?
In football, during the lockdown, I was saying Galway all along, but seeing them last weekend and seeing Dublin as well against Meath, just grinding out that victory, I just think you can't look past the Dubs really. They just have too much firepower in their team. Um, I think they'll beat Monaghan in the semi-finals. I think Monaghan will Ulster. Um, they go into the All-Ireland final. I still think God will probably reach the All-Ireland final. I don't think Kerry are as good as people think they are. I I think Dublin will win the All Ireland final eventually, but I think it'll be something like 1 or 2 points. It won't be that comprehensive victory. Let's not forget Galway were missing a few Mike Cullen players last weekend. Shane Walsh, Damien Comer, some key players. So I definitely think they'll give the Dubs a rattle. As for hurling, I think it'll be Kilkenny. Like 5 years without an All Ireland would be detrimental for Brian Cody. Um, I think Wexford have a huge chance. I like what David Fitzgerald is doing there. I kind of think they had their chance though last year against Tipperary. They were miles ahead with the extra man on the pitch, and they just let it slip. Hopefully they'll challenge again because we need as much hurling teams as possible. Challenges the likes of Kilkenny, Tipperary. But yeah, I think Kilkenny will win it, given the Ballyhale Shamrocks players coming through, and Cody as a manager, I think, is outstanding. So I'm saying Kilkenny and Dublin to win the All Ireland. So yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, Brian Cody definitely one of the best managers probably of all time in the GAA without doubt. But yeah, anyway, I think what we'll do is we'll wrap this up here, Matthew. Anyway, yeah, cheers for coming on, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, Aaron.